Hey everyone, welcome to conversation number 7. Today I'll be talking with my brother, Micki Cockrille. Micki works for the Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado and CI4SI. I'll let him speak to what he does specifically for those, but Micki, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on here finally. I've been trying to get you on here, I think, since conversation number 1.
That's awesome. No, I am stoked to be on here. Stoked to, one, be supporting my old brother, but stoked to just talk about, passions and, what's going on here in the community in Colorado Springs. So it feels really good to hang out and just have a conversation.
Yeah, so what specifically are you doing for both of those institutes?
Yeah, absolutely. So my official title is the Digital Marketing and Event Specialist for Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado and the Colorado Institute for Social Impact, aka CI4SI, and that's how we'll typically refer to that.
Okay.
So my scope, my job, really just kind of a jack of all trades of everything digital marketing and everything events. So my job is twofold, just between maintaining, expanding, and helping that online presence thrive for Better Business Bureau and CI4SI, as well as we just have a tremendous community presence with both of those organizations.
Yeah.
We do a lot of events. So my role is just kind of making sure those events go smoothly and making those events an experience for all of our attendees.
Yeah, so that was obviously, that introduction was a mouthful. That's why I gave it to you. I didn't want to butcher it myself. I was saying it in my head before we talked, and I was like, that's not something I'm going to do. I'll let you do it. But no, man, you obviously have a huge impact in what's coming up. And I'd say that the sectors that you're working on are very, very up and coming in Southern Colorado. And I remember growing up there, I don't really remember such an impact. Of course, you and I weren't necessarily as involved in it, but we were always kind of in the loop of kind of how the city was growing, and I don't remember such an impact. And when you give me some of the numbers that you've given me to kind of cue in how the city's growing, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely tremendous. Well, just the fact is that Colorado has just always had a really strong nonprofit community.
Yeah.
But Colorado Springs has just been it's just seemed like a really cool growth in the last few years. First off, Colorado Springs is just an absolutely gorgeous city that's primarily been known, again, for that nonprofit sector. But we're seeing a lot of growth in the food and beverage culture, as well as the social enterprise sector. Small business has always been really strong, as well as cybersecurity is just blowing up here. So Colorado Springs, just through myriad factors, is just becoming a tremendous place to live. Just a few statistics. I believe it was this year or last year, Colorado Springs, believe it or not, is the fastest growing city for millennials in the nation.
Interesting.
I believe number 2 most desirable city to live in the USA, behind
Why do you think it is for? Let's kind of pull that apart. Why do you think it is for millennials?
It's a great question, and truly I don't know the answer. But what I do know is that kind of Colorado since 2013, and I don't want to say it's because of marijuana being legalized, but it just seems that ever since 2008, we really have been growing, as most economies have been across the nation.
Yeah.
But Colorado's just got a really good positive rep in the last few years, and the economy's been booming. We've had a huge influx. Whether that's through the military or whether that's through, individuals looking to get out of more crowded spaces, bigger urban centers, and they hear, well, maybe we can make an opportunity and impact in Colorado. What's interesting about that is, Denver is kind of the primary place that everyone knows about. So even Denver is becoming kind of saturated in its own regard. Now, Denver has a lot of positives. I love Denver, but, so just an hour south is Colorado Springs.
So do you think a lot of the maybe overflow maybe is going to Colorado Springs? Because I know you're right, and granted, I haven't lived in Colorado for about 9 years now, and I know when I speak to a lot of friends there, or whenever I see people talking about Colorado, they say, man, it's just getting really expensive to live in Colorado because the housing market's going up. Houses are costing a lot more. The overall price of living, the cost of living is going up, and I'm sure that has an effect on all of Colorado. But it doesn't seem like you're saying it's not really deterring the millennial generation, if you will, that are coming to Colorado Springs and promoting everything that you guys are working into.
Yeah, I don't think so, and I'm not entirely sure, exactly what it is, except for, kind of the factors that I mentioned before. But I do know that I think when people come to Colorado Springs, especially that millennial generation, if I could generalize here for a little bit, but when they do come here, they realize, not only is this town absolutely gorgeous, but for individuals that love the outdoors, they just have tremendous access to that. Yeah. And once you get involved with the community just a little bit, you can see that, it's a big town, but it's also really tight-knit. So what that means is you can actually really make an impact if you really want to. And at the same time, there's access to plenty of just wonderful hole-in-the-wall and artisan bars, restaurants.
Definitely agree. And that kind of peels into the second thing you were talking about, which was your bars and your food industry and the drink industry. I'm not sure exactly how you referred to it, but you were saying one, millennials, two, like food and beverage. So those are two huge up and coming things there in Colorado Springs. And of course, it has so much to attract. It's just a visually appealing city with so much to do. And it's not even far from even bigger and more things to do in the mountains, because it's sitting there right nestled at the foothills of Pikes Peak. So pretty incredible place. A lot of opportunity, it seems.
I always say, even on your worst days, you can always look up and look at Pikes Peak, and you're like, dang, like, what? It is gorgeous here. Yeah. So.
No, it absolutely is. I love going back every time. You miss it. You definitely miss it. It's nothing to be taken for granted. Cool. So let's talk about the Triple B for a little bit here. So you're doing their digital marketing and events managing. So I'm sure everything that we've already discussed is incorporated a little bit in what you're doing, helping. I think we were talking a little bit offline a couple of days ago, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, about, I'm trying to remember, you did like the food truck gathering, and I know I butchered that, but the percentage increase that you were giving me it really stuck in my head. I know it was like hundreds of percent larger. I think it was like 400% larger than it was the previous year, roughly, right?
We've just blown up and seen tremendous growth with that food truck cook-off, and that's just one community event that we do of just many here in the community. So we just had this tremendous impact. Better Business Bureau, I had originally kind of gotten involved with or heard about. Well, originally, everyone kind of knows BBB for the most part. If I could generalize again, the first time I think I actually heard of BBB is my friend Jesse Fenton and I, when we were 16, his older brother helped us start College Fund Lawn Barbers. So kind of a social enterprise, not really, because we were 16. I think my biggest concerns there at 16 were my World of Warcraft character. So it was fantastic. Yeah. But at the time, I just remember we had this lawn mowing business, and we were really busy that summer, and we didn't do a good job, to put it lightly, at this one residence. And this individual said that if we were part of the BBB, she would have reported us. So fast forward.
I don't think I ever heard about that.
7 years later, and I was actually through a happening events, which we can talk about at a certain point if you'd like. But through a happening of events, ended up interning at the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center. And in a nutshell, they are an organization that helps give free resources to small businesses. They're a national organization. And when I was interning there, they partnered with this one organization called Better Business Bureau on Small Business Week to put that together. So that was really my first introduction to BBB in Southern Colorado. I got to meet the team at that point, and they were just wonderful people, just fabulous individuals, and I could tell they were making a tremendous impact on the community. That was 2 years ago. At the same time, they were doing this really cool thing called the Colorado Coalition for Social Impact that later turned into CI for SI. And I didn't know much about it, but what I did know is that in college, I kind of developed a passion for businesses doing good in general. It started with this idea of corporate social responsibility, and I was like, wait a sec, that's a thing? Businesses could be good for the environment and good for their people? because in my head, I just on the internet, it was like the cool thing to hate on capitalism, and communism was cool within our generation. And I was like, you know what, like I get, there's definitely problems with business. When I saw, this idea that social responsibility could be an idea that businesses could have an impact with, I just fell in love with it. And then I learned that we have it here in the Pikes Peak region 2 years ago. So that was my first.
On such a level. So for everybody that's watching, so what did you go to school for? Did what you have to go to school for have anything to do with what we're talking about now?
Jeez.
I mean, of course I know, but I kind of want everybody to have like a little bit of a background. Yeah. Typically, I don't know so much about my guests, but you happen to be my brother, so I know a little bit more about you. So let's share that.
Fine. I love talking about me, so this is great. So my path was certainly an interesting one. Little background in high school. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. It was kind of, I had passions, but I kind of slacked off in high school, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And in our school, everyone was going like out of state, and UCCS kind of allured me, but it was up the street. So, people kind of looked down on going to UCCS. But I, kind of wanted to go there just because it made sense economically, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. But I think probably from the first time I stepped into UCCS, I fell in love with the campus just because it's this utterly gorgeous campus. And now,
it is.
If I could jump forward really quick, 7 years later, UCCS is this incredibly thriving community, and it's actually going to be the hub for CU. In Colorado. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
So it's not going to be CU Boulder anymore. It's going to be UCCS.
Okay.
Anyway, so 7 years ago, I wasn't sure what I was getting into, and I changed my degree probably formally and informally like 7 times. And I think I had someone tell me like, you should just do business. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick to this. And I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I had goals and passions, and I knew maybe business was that engine to get there. So after, kind of some awakenings and some, painful lessons and experiences in my early college, I kind of got my shit together from that aforementioned slacker thing and just realized like, I was responsible for my success in life, and it wasn't going to be anyone else.
Yep.
My parents weren't going to be there to hold my hand, so I was like, oh, shit, I have to get my shit together. And ever since then, I've been trying to get my shit together. Can we cuss on your show? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a free flow show, so yeah.
Anyways, so getting my shit together, and it wasn't easy, but at the same time, so I worked in college pretty much more or less part-time to full-time the entire time while I was getting my business degree. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do with business necessarily, but it turns out that in the UCCS College of Business, there's various emphases that you can choose, whether that's business administration, marketing, finance, international business, the list goes on and on. And my interest got piqued just because I think it was either my dad, or by my dad, I mean our dad.
I was like, what do you mean?
Dad, everyone knows dad. It piqued my interest that there was kind of this niche called human resources. I was like, what? And I knew I always kind of like people, but I didn't realize there was like a people-centric focused emphasis in business. So, I researched it a little bit, and it was this small little niche emphasis, and I did that. At the same time, I had my friend, Zach Serkos, if you're watching this, buddy, thank you very much, kind of wrote me into a bunch of marketing classes.
Okay.
And so by the time I knew it before the end, my advisor said, hey, you have enough credits to do a marketing minor. Yeah. I was like,
Pieces, they're all slowly falling together. You were first talking about business a little bit, and then this marketing, and you realized that there was like an actual market out there for this idea that you had in your brain that you didn't think was an actual thing, that people were on a more mass scale thinking about, this social enterprise. So it's pretty cool. So I can just see all the dominoes or the puzzles falling together, and then and at
the same time, sorry, I'm getting some echo on the side, kind of distracted.
Sorry, it sounds great over here.
So I think looking back to it, I think my passions and everyone's passions are always developing and always changing, always evolving, because that's what we are as people. We're always evolving. But maybe some seeds were planted in college where I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but a few things happened. One, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I learned about corporate social responsibility, which is we don't really subscribe to that term at CI4SI, but that was how I was introduced to this idea of social impact business. The second part was I took a class in organizational development and change management, which just blew my mind because that idea of organizational development is like an evolution of human resources, where the theory of the class was that you could combine the human resources department and the organizational development department to create organizational effectiveness. Okay. An organization dedicated to empowering the people in your group and in your organization or company, and just making sure that they're ready for change, because organizations are always evolving.
Yeah,
and making sure that really they're just happy and empowered, because, truly, why wouldn't you want your employees to love what they're doing? An employee that loves what they're doing, it's common sense, it's going to work
harder. That's
harder.
what I talk about so much. I'm glad you brought that up, because if you enjoy what you're doing, of course, I know me personally, I'm going to do a better job, because if I don't enjoy what I do, then, I'm just going to go through the motions, and maybe I'll get the work done, but I'm not going to be as effective as if I'm passionate about it, if I really care about what I'm doing. And if you really care about what you're doing, there's so many variables that just wither away. You don't mind really how long you're working. You don't really matter how many days you're working. There's so many things that just wither away because you care about it, and you're going to do what it takes to be good at it and to make a bigger impact at it. So you're exactly right.
Yeah. So, so a few passions developed there at UCCS, and I just have to say I loved the college. So, there was organizational development, there was social responsibility, and I'm not sure I necessarily had a passion for marketing. But what happened is, and I realized that this might be an interesting philosophy that I'm subscribing to and exploring, but I've been reading Mission Inc. by Kevin Lynch, and I forget the other author's name. It's all about social enterprise. And one of their first lessons that they talk about is that they say, specifically for businesses, survive long enough to get lucky. And I think I was telling you that.
Yeah, it was an interesting point that you made, because I think you and I kind of don't really, if you want to quote unquote, believe in luck. But at the same time, a lot of times luck has come into play in a lot of situations, and a lot of times, I want to believe you create your own luck by hard work and putting yourself in positions. Absolutely. But at the same time, sometimes just coincidentally, or just for no reason or no good explanation at all, things just happen, for the good or for the worse.
Well, I think a couple things with that too is, one, you grind it out, and two, you wait for opportunities. And when those opportunities do come, you have to be ready, take a deep breath, you have to be on your feet ready to take those. So for how that looked like in my life, is I was working at Colorado College doing food service for almost 4 years. And I had a lot of fun at the organization, made a lot of good friends, even lifelong friends. And I wanted to work with them doing marketing and maybe even organizational development for them. But what I was doing at that food service, I didn't realize at the time, at that position, going to college, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I was surviving long enough to get lucky.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, an opportunity knocked, and I remember one day we were bartending, doing an event up in Castle Rock for catering, and this one lady struck up a conversation with me when we were bartending, and she happened to work for the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center.
Yeah.
And I told her what I was passionate about, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we hire interns all the time."
Wow.
After that day, I don't think I heard back from that organization for 8 months. But 8 months later, I got a call from SBDC saying, "Hey, we're looking for interns. You want to come?" So really,
they obviously remembered you. 8 months is a long time. I probably would have forgotten about them, or at least written them off.
If somebody doesn't contact you in 8 months, you're kind of
in the meantime, it's I wasn't just waiting for them,
Yeah, of course, you're still doing your own thing.
Myself, you just keep living, and keep working.
Yeah.
And that was just an excellent opportunity. It's interesting. I was at the CNA nonprofit conference up in Denver last October, and I ran into the Masters of Public Administration of UCCS, a booth up there. And I was like so happy to see them because there was only like 3 Colorado Springs based organizations. So I was like, oh my God, hey guys, like what's up? Like you're Colorado Springs, that's great. I'm Colorado Springs, like that's awesome. And we were just talking, and they're like, you work for Better Business Bureau. We're always curious. You're a young kid, and you graduated from UCCS. Like, what was your path? And I was like, well, it was kind of like over here and over there. And if you're listening on the podcast, my hands are just going all over the place. See.
But that's what's so interesting about it, and that's why
we want to ask, and that's why I ask pretty much anybody on this show. Like, no path is clear. Like, it's not like all of a sudden, Micki woke up and now he's working for the Better Business Bureau as the digital marketing and the events manager, and now you're doing CI for SI, and it didn't just happen like all of a sudden like that. You are 100% all over the place. Like,
well, and the NPA was like, well, I really hope you give you like a straight arrow path where UCCS kind of guided you along. And I was like, UCCS definitely helped, but it was just this wild story. So, and when I had started at the SBDC, I was just immersed into the Colorado Springs community. I was lucky enough, again, that the SBDC just had this tremendous community presence where I was meeting people all the time. They had all sorts of events. At the same time, I was gaining marketing experience. So I just can't stress enough. It's like, even if you have, like this 10-hour-a-week opportunity to intern, it's like, just take these little opportunities. I wasn't even getting paid.
That reminds me of if Sam Woomer's watching this. So Sam is the founder and owner of Dogtown. He was conversation number 3, and Sam was talking to me about how, I think, forgive me, Sam, but I think it was a whole year where he interned at a company, so obviously he worked for free, but the knowledge that you gain is priceless. The people that you meet are priceless. So it seems to be a reoccurring theme, and I'm just trying to remember from every person that I've talked to, like these reoccurring things that help them evolve into the person that they are today. So that you did find them, and it took 8 months. You didn't even think you were going to hear from them. You went about your life, and they hit you up out of the blue pretty much. And then you're like, even if I can commit a little bit of time to them, it's going to be beneficial to me. So I need to take that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and I will say as a side note in the future is that, I was, I volunteered, but I do very much believe in compensating individuals, even if they are just interns for their work. So if any interns in my future, I will absolutely be compensating, because I do believe, in giving someone, an economic engine as well as the belief. But I will say that just the connections that I gained and the experience that I could put on my resume, and the relationships that developed were just invaluable. And that, when the internship kind of ended and I had graduated, it was funny. Like, even though all that happened, I still had no idea what I was going to do. But but I kept kept kind of just talking and testing out my connections and testing out, just talking to people, like looking for work. Like, I don't know what I was going to do. I was still working for catering, thought I might, go work corporate for the company I was working. But as chance has it, as, life in the universe works, ran into an individual that was looking for some social media community management work. And, after, kind of a lengthy, rather informal interview process, I started working at this health and wellness startup called Nestcare, which was just a really interesting time in my life. Working for a startup, I don't think I realized what I was getting myself into. And, as I got more involved in the community, volunteering for things like 1 Million Cups and Peak Startup, I realized that startups are truly an emotionally invested endeavor.
Let's tell everybody, what's 1 Million Cups?
Sure. So really quick about 1 Million Cups. That same summer, through a connection at the SBDC, one of the individuals asked me to come be a community organizer for 1 Million Cups. 1 Million Cups, I always describe as like the anti-Shark Tank, where individuals that have gone through the emotional tolls, that have gone through the story, that have gone through the hardships, and the entrepreneurs that have seen some amount of success in the revenue generating, that are 1 to 5 years old, come and tell their stories to educate other entrepreneurs all over cups of coffee. So the idea is that there's 1 million cups of coffee being drank around the nation, because there's like 1 million cups all across the nation. And I mean, if you, wherever you're listening or watching this from, you could probably search 1 million cups in your area, and there's probably an organization.
Yeah.
So
it's a pretty incredible thing. I mean, it's kind of like what we're doing here right now is sharing your story, how you got started, and then to hear another, I mean, it sounds like they're successful entrepreneurs because you said they have to do it for a minimum of 5 years, right?
1 to 5.
1 to 5. Okay, so
we kind of because we had 2 presenters every week, so that's about 90 to 100 presenters a year, and that was like a part-time job trying to find those people. So sometimes we stretched the constraints.
You don't have to tell me about it. It's definitely a part-time job finding people for this show.
But the idea was that they had to be in business 1 to 5 years, and they're scalable. It's really aimed towards startups, but since we are such a nonprofit town, we allowed that.
So you were doing this on the side as well as as you were
getting involved in your startup.
Again, another volunteer opportunity, but I think it really helped position me in the community, get even further involved and meet more people, just get really in tune. So this was a lot of work, but something I'm really happy I did. At the same time, I was working for this startup, and again, it was like working for the Wild Wild West. Not only did I have minimal marketing experience, we were a startup, so we were just trying to figure everything out. Of what worked. So not only are you figuring out the product, you're figuring out how to market, and you're also figuring out how to survive in this this startup ecosystem, which can be just super difficult because money is limited. It's not like a massive corporate structure. Growth is fast. You have crazy amounts of pressure. So just dealing with that and managing that. And I worked for that organization for almost a year. Helped build my experience. Just make me a better person. So many lessons learned, and with some really cool people in marketing that really helped teach me some things in marketing. And if what you'll notice too is that what's funny, I mentioned human resources at UCCS. I still haven't done much human resources or organizational development work, but all my work has been in marketing. But at the same time, I'm learning that I enjoy a lot of it.
And a lot of the marketing has to do with your talk. I mean, you're not necessarily or strictly HR, right? However, you're dealing with people every single day because marketing is you're reaching out to people, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I mean, it lends itself to a greater conversation. I was just talking to my friend Forrest the other day, but I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole, but I believe that marketing itself is evolving, and I'd love to in the future take a different approach to the role of marketing, where I'd say that in this day and age, people love the brands that they're using, right? So if you have Patagonia, you don't necessarily have to be sold to Patagonia. However, what makes it an even better experience is that experience and engagement. So I'd love to transform marketing into just truly an engagement role with your stakeholders, your consumers, but also engaging the people in your organization. So that goes back to the idea of organizational development. So I don't know. I read an article that the idea of the chief marketing officer (CMO) is dead. In general, their tenure with organizations is really low compared to other C-suite positions. And I'd love to evolve that CMO position into maybe something like CXO, Chief Engagement Officer. But anyways, it's going back to UCCS, you just never know where your experience is going to come out and how it's going to affect you. So some people are like, I spent 3 years in the wrong field. It's like, well, maybe not necessarily. It's like and they'll say, I'm happy I moved on to something better. But you're learning from something. You're learning from all of your experiences.
Helps you figure out what you don't like at the very minimum. I think there's definitely there's the takeaway from anything, right? Anything that you're doing, and you brought up a good point. Even if you maybe think that you wasted 3 years in this sector or this job, the minimum is that you figured out you don't like this, and then maybe you were able to refine some skills while you were working there.
Right. So, but anyways, I think my point is you never know how your past experiences are going to help you or benefit you in the future. Exactly. So just don't ever regret something huge, and unless it's truly a regretful thing, then you learn from it. But
then just try not to make that mistake again, at least.
Well, they always talk at Peak Startup, which was another organization I started volunteering for. Is Peak Startup is kind of the Pikes Peak region, Colorado Springs. startup ecosystem support. It's a nonprofit that just helps build community in the startup system and kind of unite it and provide resources. So I've just been the MC for many of their pitch nights. So they have a pitch night that happens. So that is a lot like Shark Tank. That's not like 1 million cups.
Yeah.
Where companies go up and really just pitch their idea, typically in the Pikes Peak region.
And they're pitching it to who?
Pardon?
Who are they pitching these ideas to?
They pitch it to the audience as well as...
So just like anybody, like...
A citizen of Colorado Springs could walk into this place, or an investor.
Because there's free pizza and beer, so people are like, hell yeah, we'll go get free pizza and beer, but at the same time, like, you're a little bit tipsy, and you get to, like, the audience can ask questions, and you're going and pitching. But these are, like, real ideas, real companies, real people trying to get their startups going. But one of the lessons, kind of going back earlier, that I've learned just from the startup community, they could apply to, my time with Nestcare or truly anything is, failures are not a time to be hard on yourself and to, it's almost a time of celebration where you say, it sucks and it's hard, but you learn from your experiences and you always take away something from that. They always say fail hard, fail fast. I'm still learning if I subscribe to that necessarily, but I do love the idea of learning from your failures regardless.
Well, I definitely agree too. I don't know necessarily about fail hard, but fail fast maybe coincides with it in the respect of you want to fail fast, or at least you want to figure out that you're on the wrong track before you trek down that so far to where you're like, oh my God, because maybe a lot of times people are too proud to realize that they're on the wrong track, or maybe they are too proud that they do realize that they're on track and they're not willing to, exactly, or they're too invested and they don't want to change that route that they're on, and so instead of just being able to pull themselves back in and be like, all right, admittedly, I went down the wrong path here. Let's, stop before it gets too deep, before we expend too many resources and go down the other one. So yeah, I do agree. Fail hard and fail fast. I guess, that really resonates pretty deeply.
And like many things in life, I believe in balance in so many things. I think there's balance too, because I think you have to find that balance between, not staying too invested and, cutting the losses, but also not like, as soon as you see like something difficult, that doesn't mean, just give up on it immediately and say, all right, it didn't work.
No, you have to definitely be able to decipher between what is going down a completely wrong path and what is just a roadblock that you have to kind of hurdle and get over.
And so one might ask, like, well, how do I know, man? Like, how do I know where, how do I know if I'm failing fast, or how do I know if I stay with this organization? That's why I think it's super important to have mentors in your life and have a support group and really help give you an outside perspective.
Completely agree.
So I worked with Nestcare through a year, was pretty much doing working with 1 million cups that whole time. 1 million cups I spent a year with and kind of handed off the reins to my replacement, or Padawan. And, through chance of events, my time at Nestcare was kind of ending, and I had an opportunity, as luck and chance would have it. I survived long enough to get lucky. But an individual at BBB mentioned that they were looking for potential digital marketing and event specialists. Okay. And it came just that it's amazing how the universe works sometimes. I'm still trying to figure out what my philosophy is on that. But as fate would have it, I got hit up right at a time in a crossroads in my life, and it was almost too good to be true, that I had an opportunity to not only work for this BDD organization that I had made an impact on my life 2 years ago, but an opportunity to use my economic engine and my skills in marketing to work with just this amazing, fabulous team that I still love almost a year later. Mostly love. No, just kidding. I love you all. Dude. And also worked for the freaking Colorado Institute for Social Impact, man. It's like, like buckets. That's like a passion. So just couldn't be more lucky, to do that. But at the same time, just being diligent through that whole time, because I it didn't just fall in my lap. I had many years of working hard.
I think from looking at it from the outside, apart from everything else we've said, that no matter what, you were just always, you had that forward momentum, right? You were just always moving forward, no matter if, you knew it was the right path or you didn't know even what path to take. You just kept on moving forward.
Yeah.
And eventually you're going to hit it's going to be some negative resistance that, I don't really want to go that way, or some, you're just kind of figuring out where you're going. But the takeaway is that you kept on moving, you kept on working, and you kept on looking for what drew you in and what you were more attracted to in the realm of figuring out what you wanted to do in the long term.
Yeah, just always striving to move forward.
Man.
Having a level of patience, but always being open to those opportunities.
Yeah, it's a lot of patience. I mean, you're describing like 9 years, right? I always forget how old my brother is. What are you, 25 now?
I start.
You talked about the lawnmower at 16, so I'm thinking like 16 to 25 is 9 years. I can't know if you're old, but
I guess it has been that long. God.
Yeah, see, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, these things don't happen
overnight, but it was first rooted in when you were doing the lawn mowing company, and then it just evolved through college and evolved through the startups and everything, and it just like I said, you just have this forward motion and you just keep on pushing through, and I don't know, you've made incredible progress so far. So I know me as a friend and a brother, it's very exciting to see the progression and the success that you obtain, and that's what I see in everybody I've talked to so far. They're doing what they're passionate about and they're helping other people do it, and the fact that you're sharing your story and all these people are willing to share their story means so much to me. It's
really cool, and I know
it means a lot to the people that are listening or watching the video. There's so much to take away, so many little bits and parts to listen to take away and apply to my own life and apply to other lives.
Yeah.
Or apply. Apply.
And maybe someone should do like a reverse podcast with you, Chris, because you've just done a tremendous job. And without going too much into it, I know I am, and the rest of the family are super excited for the next chapter in your life. I mean, just like what a freaking tremendous opportunity.
And maybe
and you would be a great person to talk to me about that, and I would love to share that too. But I'm definitely myself still figuring everything out as I go. Like every time I talk to somebody, they're like, I had no idea what I was doing. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but now I'm doing it. And then I'm like, well, I still don't really know what I'm doing. But like I've just said with you, I just always ensure that I have forward momentum, and that I know I'm pretty confident when I say that as long as I know that I have good intentions and I know deep down what I'm trying to do, and for the long run, that eventually you will make strides, and then that luck will have it that you will land up in a good place where you'll be able to succeed, and then you just have to be able to capitalize off of those opportunities when they're presented to you.
No,
But anyways, I'm still figuring it out, man.
Absolutely. Everyone's figuring it out. Even those individuals that are way, up at the top, quote unquote, and they're like, we're still figuring it out day by day. But
of course, I think you would be.
You'd be wronging yourself if you ever were like, okay, I don't need to know anything else, or I figured it all out. Like you literally just said what I wanted to say is perfect that you said that. But you're like, just because you're at the top, like think about anybody that you would in your head, and I'm sure everybody's thinking about a completely different thing, but you think about, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Like Steve Jobs is somebody that I really think of that took it to where, I'd eventually like to take it in the sense of like making it so well for himself and so good for his company, but then also giving back to so many people along the way and teaching others how to have a great mindset and work hard. So anything like that is what you mean. I know that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always just moving forward, and I don't know. Like part of it's cool is like you do never know where life's going to be, and sometimes there's there's beauty in kind of looking at the future and saying like, wow, you never know what's going to come up.
I don't want it
to be planned. I mean, I get scared because I'm such a planner, and I get scared when I don't necessarily know what's going to happen. But that's a little bit of the fun is like you said. Is not necessarily knowing what's going to happen, but at least working hard enough to when the times of uncertainty come up that you're able to capitalize those, like I was saying earlier.
And it's not to discount the hardships too. Like, I barely mentioned like any, the difficult times, that I've gone through and all the things, but you persist through and you keep going. And eventually you find yourself at this weird place called the Better Business Bureau that you only heard of once when you were 16 and you thought you were getting reported to. And then, some other time, when you were 22, 23 and you hear about just this, you're like, BBB, like what? They have this tremendous community impact, and they're cool? Like, I thought the BBB was just I think when I was younger, I thought it was like a government organization or something, but it's truly interesting, really, what BBB is. BBB has been around for over 100 years, which is just amazing. I believe the Better Business Bureau was originally founded in 1912. And it started off as Truth in Advertising, as I believe, as the story goes, and my friends at the BBB are they're gonna laugh as I butcher this. They tell it so much better. But the idea was that, it started with Truth in Advertising. I believe executives at Coca-Cola were a little bit dismayed and not happy with the ethics of how they were selling Coca-Cola at the time, and they were advertising Coca-Cola essentially as like a miracle drug for everything. And it just wasn't true.
Except the drug part.
Like, that's fine, but like the execs were like, we kind of want to have like standards for this. Like, this is like ridiculous. Like, who is keeping like the private market like in check? Like, there's no one out there. Well, so the Better Business Bureau got founded in 1912. People were thinking about like just how to make a better business. And if you think about that, BBB has gone through so many things. It's gone through the First World War, Second World War, Korean War. I mean, you just think of all these life events, and it's still growing and evolving. BBB was founded in 1980 in southern Colorado in Colorado Springs. Okay. And it's still going strong. It's survived through the turmoil, which I really think speaks to a brand that can go through that long. And some people say, well, Better Business Bureau, like, isn't that kind of outdated? And, as someone, obviously I'm an advocate for a Better Business Bureau, but as a millennial, I say, well, not necessarily, in this digital age where trust can be so difficult to truly find online. You hear things like fake news dominate the headlines, where people don't maybe necessarily know where to look. They look to Facebook to sort it out, but then Facebook is like, oh, actually we have content all over the place, and there might be Russians involved. Sorry. But, the idea is, well, how could, and business has maybe got a bad rep, capitalism's got a bad rep for individuals. So I think BBB is more relevant than ever, and Better Business Bureau is evolving into the digital age as well. We have a new website, we've got a new brand, a new app, and BBB, so people are like, I kind of know what BBB does, but like, what really does BBB do? Well, our mission is to set standards for marketplace trust. So we're creating a community of trustworthy businesses and charities. We encourage and support best practices, and we educate consumers and businesses, celebrating business role models, but at the same time calling out and addressing substandard marketplace behavior, which happens. So Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado, we house nearly 40,000 reviews just in this in our region. And in 2016, we processed 2,600 complaints and had over 1 million page views on our website, in addition to providing important information, resources to businesses and consumers. So we've developed innovative programs like our Age-Friendly Business Certification and our BBB Excellence Awards, along with accrediting businesses. So Better Business Bureau, as well as founding the Colorado Institute for Social Impact. So we have a lot going, and we're accrediting businesses and we're educating consumers really just on what's happening out there.
Yeah, so it's a great thing, and like you said, it's consistently evolving as well.
And people say, well, what does it mean if a business is accredited? Does that just mean like BBB looked at them and kind of gave them a thumbs up? It's not like that. No, we actually go through a process, and we hold businesses to a higher standard. If you see a seal on, say, a roofing company out there in Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, you know that business is being held to 8 standards of marketplace trust. They have established and maintained a positive track record in the marketplace. Okay. They advertise honestly. They tell the truth with their products and services. They're transparent. They honor promises. They're responsive to disputes, because these things happen, right, in business. Not everyone's perfect. And in this day and age, in 2018, when cybersecurity is such a hot button issue, they safeguard their consumers' privacy.
They're covering a lot of topics here
from my point of view, because I know I didn't know much about it, and again, I specifically didn't want to know much about it, and definitely giving me a lot of good information about that. So it sounds like if I was to choose a company that utilized that, then it would give me, how I like to call it, that warm and fuzzy feeling that maybe like a mom and pop company that you've been using for 20 or 30 years kind of gives you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're honest,
And our motto really is just to start with trust. Look at that Better Business Bureau seal. You can go online and you can check. There is a BBB of Norfolk. You can check this out afterwards. If you go online to their website, again, you can look at those reviews. Better Business Bureau is the only organization that gets online reviews, believe it or not. A pissed off consumer that just wants to go and like smear a business, the consumers are getting reviewed as well. So it's fair to the businesses as well as the consumers. The idea is just transparency here.
Which I think the transparency keeps the businesses honest, and it keeps the consumers honest, because if everybody's transparent, then
Right. Well, and the idea is, I will say this, and this is up for debate, but I think for a majority of people, there's sociopaths and psychopaths out there, but for a majority of people, especially in business, no one goes into a business interaction saying, I'm going to be the bad guy and I'm going to go and screw this person over. Does it happen? Absolutely. But for the majority of people, maybe not. What Better Business Bureau does is really gives a chance for consumers and businesses to just have a conversation and be open and transparent with each other, which I just think is an incredibly unique value proposition in any community, to where a point where we act as that third party, neutral party. If a consumer ever has an issue with an accredited business, they can file a complaint. And it gives that business an opportunity to respond to the complaint fairly, civilly, and say, you know what, we're sorry, we messed up, or hey, there was a miscommunication.
Which a lot of times what it seems to be.
Well, if it truly is a difficult situation, BBB offers mediation services with that accreditation.
That's very neat.
So I just think it's super powerful when you get two people sitting down face to face in front of each other instead of typing back and forth negative internet forum. To give people that option to talk to each other and just come to a solution for both parties. So I love just what we do just with accredited businesses.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal aspect I wasn't aware of. That's really cool.
Well, we just have an awesome operations team too. If I could give a shout out to them, that are constantly, they're investigating businesses' bad practices. They're accrediting businesses.
Yeah, I imagine that's quite the full time. I mean, it sounds like a full job. It sounds like a very
whole team dedicated to it. We accredit businesses. Businesses have their online profile. So if you go on to Norfolk, Virginia Beach, or literally anywhere in the country, whoever's watching this, I urge you to go to bbb.org and check out your local BBB. It's really cool.
Especially if you're looking for a new business maybe and you don't really know where to go for it, then it would kind of help maybe guide you.
I mean, you could go and search plumbers, but it's what if a review online, I'm not going to call out certain organizations, it's fake, or you've gone on. Remember that BBB reviews are vetted. So you're like, oh, I need a plumber, but I don't even know where to start. Well, why not start with trust and go BBB?
You're right.
But so business, it's good for the businesses too, because they're aligning themselves with our 100-year-old brand. They get their online profile, which is a nice, nifty way for businesses to be seen online. It's actually a boost to their SEO as well. So we have a partnership with Google. And businesses can take it to the next level too with their accreditation. If they want to become age-friendly, they can get certified. So that kind of ties into my last job at Nestcare with this idea that, Chris, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day.
Wow.
And that's just an incredible toll on Social Security in our system, where a lot of these people have, financial means, but a lot of them don't. But that's beyond the point. It's just we have a very Baby boomers are just all, they're aging, they're becoming a lot older, and they have to deal with, the facts of life that, they are looking for maybe, a way to age in place versus aging, in an expensive retirement home. Meanwhile, their kids, the Gen Xers and the millennials are, worried about their parents that are getting older, and, maybe they're super busy. They've got kids of their own. They want to know, how can their parents be, safe? So what we've done at Better Business Bureau is we've made an alliance, or in alliance with Innovations in Aging Collaborative, which came from AARP, is we have worked on making this age-friendly certification for businesses that goes along with this idea of just really making age-friendly cities, making cities, they call it 880 cities, as good for an 8-year-old, or not good, accessible for an 8-year-old as much as an 8-year-old. So it's simple things, making sidewalks easy, making public transportation, and in our case, making businesses age-friendly. So if you see an age-friendly business in the Pikes Peak region in southern Colorado, you can know that, one, they're BBB accredited, so they already adhere to the 8 standards of Marketplace Trust. Their physical environment's clean and clear. Their staff and personnel are nice. Their marketing are easy to read. And they have just good customer experience. I'm listening to that and like, well, shit, like I want that for like any level. But a business, like I want that when I'm 25 from any business. But a business that's age friendly specifically, is, as, an older individual, if you're going in there, that they are a business that is going to be, tuned to your needs. Or if you're looking for a business for your parents, you can search online for BBB accredited, but then you can also search additionally in our age-friendly database for a business that's age-friendly.
It makes sense. It's you have to target everybody different, or a little bit differently, and being able to appropriate to 8 to 80, as you say, covers quite a bit, and I think that's very necessary to do good business.
So in BBB, again, we do a lot, but we also do consumer awareness. So again, our customer reviews, our business reviews, as well as just general scam and fraud awareness, which ties into some of the events that we do. But despite the fact that I think a lot of people, majority of people are in business to be, do good and generate revenue, there are still scammers out there.
It happens,
those sociopaths and psychopaths. There's senior scams, puppy scams, ticket scams. There's just so many scams. So we have tools like our scam tracker. So if you go to bbb.org scam tracker, you can search local scams in your area. So if something sounds fishy or too good to be true, check it out first on scams. And we're just always educating individuals in the community about scams.
It sounds like to me,
again, from an outsider, you guys are covering all the bases. I mean, you really have your hands in everything for the good. Like you're really keeping track of making sure people are honest and just good, doing good business, and you're making sure that on like a physical state they are, if you will, with being the mediator and being able to be there for people in that manner. And however, you're also being able to be there on a cyber level with cybersecurity and covering that as well.
Definitely to a certain degree. We're not there yet with the cyber part, but there are some things in the
and you guys are at least just at a very minimum. Again, you guys are discussing it. You're working towards that, and you're at least having this list, as you called it, of scams that are potentially out there.
Right.
Whether it's a physical location or it's this cyber stuff. So my point is you guys are doing quite a bit. You're help accrediting people. I mean, you're covering a lot here, and it's a lot of work. It seems just like a lot of work you guys are knocking out, and you're doing really well at it, clearly.
Right, and we haven't even got to the events and CI press side, but and we do, like, if there is a business that's really screwing people over, like truly, or is just it's fishy, or
what do you guys do in that matter? What happens if you do find a business?
We'll shoot out press releases, man. We will, we'll let people know, like, it's like, hey, just FYI. And a lot of times, the press in our town, KKTV, KOAA, will pick that up and let consumers know. They have a massive, huge audience and reach. So it's like,
I feel that also helps keep people
honest, though, because if people are knowing that the Triple B is keying down and calling people out for what they are, if they're doing bad business, then maybe somebody that's more prone to doing bad business is going to be less prone to doing bad business because they know they're going to get called for what they are.
Right. I do want to clarify too. It's not like if you do like one bad thing, we're like, oh,
of course,
We go through
because mistakes happen, of
process,
course. Yeah.
And deal with complaints. We might even go to mediation, even to arbitration. And at the very end of the line, like last rope, they're being unresponsive or just not coming to a thing, and we've gone through a fair process with them. We'll let the community know, it's like, watch out for these people. We do give ratings on business. So as well as that, we just, again, we have that awesome community presence. We have just a bunch of events in the community. We have our bi-monthly Buzz with the Bees networking breakfast. We have our Letter Rip event. So just earlier this month, we partner with mobile record shredders in El Paso County to help people dispose of their old documents, which, believe it or not, is incredibly beneficial for fraud prevention. So we were able to shred thousands of pounds of old documents, like right on the site. I think we had like 700 cars come through this year.
So this is an actual problem, and I think people probably are thinking, like, is this an actual problem? But it is. I mean, you're actually shredding, vehicle loads after vehicle loads after vehicle loads of papers that if it sounds like, and I don't want to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been years and decades maybe that people are holding on to these old papers.
That they're locked away in a file cabinet somewhere.
Literally, we were down in Pueblo, Colorado. I think I remember, I believe one woman was like, oh, I've had these documents for 40 years. She had them for 40 years, and she was like getting rid of them. But like, people ask, like, how do the hackers get your stuff? Well, sometimes it's like literally a physical break-in, and they'll like steal your personal documents. Yeah. That's why people like aren't messing around when they say shred your old documents, So we provide, that's just one of the services we do. We have our kind of signature gala event at the UR Night of Excellence. So that happens this last week of September, where this is a night where we celebrate our businesses that have gone through our Excellence in Customer Service Award process. And what that is, the accredited businesses are invited to compete against criteria for this award, not necessarily each other. And these are businesses that are competing against themselves and going through this almost thesis-like process of investigating their own customer service. So again, it goes back and ties into that mission of, having businesses just really in general be better, so really just analyzing their customer service. So last year, I believe we had 12 businesses enter, and again, they're competing against themselves, and 9 businesses actually won this. These businesses receive recognition based on obtaining measurable data and implementing the findings in such a manner that customer services continue to be improved upon. So these businesses we celebrated last year, again, at our Night of Excellence Gala, which is just a fabulous night. We always have a theme every year. So last year we were able to transform the Pikes Peak City Auditorium into the golden age of Hollywood. So it was 30s, 40s themed. We had like Wizard of Oz stuff around. Bob Pankus Automotive was our presenting sponsor, and they brought in like cars on the stage, and we had this awesome AV with beautiful lights, and everyone was dressed up in like 30s and 40s.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So just a really cool capstone event. If I may tease this year's event, do I want to tease this? No, I'm not going to do that because nothing's said.
We can't handle it.
So as well as we have our Small Business Week. And this year was our 6th Small Business Week, where we partner with Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center to really just celebrate small business in the Pikes Peak region. So how we do that is we do it through our food truck competition and through classes and panels throughout the week dedicated to educating small business, with our culmination awards ceremony where we award exemplary business people and businesses in the Pikes Peak region. And we've just grown to just such an incredible amount. I mean, I remember 3 years ago when I was interning at SBDC, it was our first year doing the food truck cook-off, and we had about 200 people, and that was a lot for me. There was like huge lines. Fast forward to 2018, just 2 years later, and our food truck competition, we had about 1,500 people show up. So just tremendous growth, and this is just a time to celebrate one aspect of small business, a huge aspect of small business in the Pikes Peak region, that is the food trucks that we have. So individuals and participants can come in and sample. I think we had 16 food trucks this year and vote on their favorites, and they can win an award as well as win the Judge's Choice Award, and they're recognized at our awards event too. So it's just an awesome time. And yeah, we had five days, and it was a doozy. So
yeah, that's incredible growth. That's the growth I was talking about earlier. I mean, that's pretty substantial, multiple time growth.
And as well as I mentioned earlier, we have our kind of the final biggest piece, which is almost a whole other conversation. Was we last August launched the Colorado Institute for Social Impact.
We can talk a little bit about it. I mean, I know we've been going for about an hour already, and I know that could probably be a whole other conversation, and we can very well do a whole entire other conversation about it. But just talk a little bit about it, because we alluded to it a little bit in the beginning, of course. So go ahead.
So if I could speak off the cuff, do you mind if we talk about it for a while?
No, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So Colorado Institute for Social Impact. It's like, goodness, where to even begin? We mentioned earlier, or I mentioned earlier, that originally Colorado Institute for Social Impact was actually the Colorado Coalition for Social Impact. My co-founders, Jonathan Lieber and Stacy Burns, have been in this new sector, and for at least 15 years now. Sorry if I got that wrong, Jonathan and Stacy. But there's this idea that in 2018, in the last few years, there has been an emergence, been happening, a new phenomenon, and it's really exciting. There's a need for a new vision. The economic rules are changing. Consumers are more informed and conscious about where they spend their money. They want to know how businesses are positively impacting their local communities. Giving is changing, and foundations are taking on new and different roles. And impact investing is changing traditional funding models. I think there's a couple stats out there, like for the millennial generation, I think 6 or 7 out of 10 millennials will pay a premium for a product if they know that it's a business with a higher purpose, that it's ethically sourced, or that they treat their employees well. So the example is, if there's a coffee shop, there's coffee shop A and coffee shop B. They make the same coffee. It's both really good. It both costs $5 for a cup of coffee. But the difference between business A and business B is that business A is completely for profit, but business B treats their employees well, and they make it known that supply chains are environmentally sustainable, and they treat the communities well, on top of the fact that they make a profit. Which coffee shop you would go? Would you go to? Most people would say, well, probably B. What we're seeing right now is truly a phenomenon, is the emergence of a new sector between the private sector and the nonprofit sector. And back in 2011, here at Sabedi, butchered his name, of the Harvard Business Review actually said, with the formalization of the for-profit social enterprise structure, we will see the emergence of a fourth sector of the economy interacting with both separate and for-profit businesses. The rise of that sector is likely to reshape the future of capitalism. And in this fourth sector, we're seeing an emergence of new type of businesses. It's almost like a hybrid between a for-profit and a non-profit business, right? Okay. These businesses, they have many names: social enterprise, conscious capitalist, social impact businesses, and public benefit corporations. These are all businesses that it's hard to really define them. We don't really want to focus on defining them, but many of them, especially conscious capitalists, will focus on a triple bottom line of people, profit, and planet, not just the profit. The difference, that was back in 2011, right? With this quote from here at Sabedi, the Harvard Business Review, saying that the fourth sector was emerging. Well, I want to bring it up to 2018, and I want to read a quote from Larry Fink. Are you familiar with Larry Fink, Chris?
I feel like we may have talked about him before, but yeah.
Lawrence D. Fink is founder, chairman, and chief executive officer at BlackRock, Inc. He also leads the firm's global executive committee. And if you're not familiar with BlackRock, Inc., they're the largest investment firm in the world. They have about $6 trillion of assets. And this is what Larry Fink said. He has an annual letter to CEOs. He says, We also see many governments failing to prepare for the future on issues ranging from retirement and infrastructure to automation and worker retraining. As a result, society is increasingly turning to the private sector and asking that companies respond to broader societal challenges. Indeed, the public expectations of your company have never been greater. Society is demanding that companies, both public and private, serve a social purpose. To prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society. Companies must benefit all of their stakeholders, including shareholders, employees, customers, and the communities in which they operate. In a nutshell, he says, without a sense of purpose, no company, either public or private, can achieve its full potential. Think about that. Larry Fink, who has this just an unimaginably successful investment firm, is saying, with your for-profit company, if it's not serving a social purpose, not benefiting the community beyond just the bottom line of your shareholders, which you still need to be
mindful of.
Right, mindful of. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
You're not achieving your full potential. So to back up a little bit, with this fourth sector, kind of define a little bit more of what it looks like. In the past, you've always kind of had in your career a choice to work for either the nonprofit sector or the for-profit sector, right?
Yeah.
And for-profit sector, and I've heard stories of this in the community, you might work for a company and you'll find yourself working there for 5, 10, 20 years, but you might never have that sense of a higher purpose. So you make your economic engine, but at the end of the day, maybe you're felt a little bit empty. I've heard stories of self-proclaimed, they call themselves corporate refugees in my community that talked to me that they did work for a corporation for 20 years, but at the end of the day, they're like just looking for something new.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, so they look for a purpose, but so they go to work for a nonprofit, which is great. You find that that sense of purpose. However, and in the words of my CEO, you have to take a bow at poverty because a nonprofit doesn't traditionally have that economic.
And it's so curious we're talking about this too, because I know when I spoke with John in conversation number 6, we kind of talked about there being this kind of negative connotation for nonprofits to make money, which obviously doesn't make them nonprofits anymore. But what he's doing and what we discussed about is you need to make money to help people. Like, it's not a bad thing to make money. It's really not.
Right.
And I don't know why. I mean, I guess I do know why. That would be kind of naive for me to say I don't know why. There's that negative connotation, but obviously people have abused that in the past. We can't, you can't argue that. However, there are great companies out there like Green Zone Hero. There are great organizations out there like CI4SI that are doing great things, and like this gentleman that you just described. And you need money to be able to help people. That would be very, or it makes it quite difficult not to. So to be able to kind of mesh these two, the for-profits, as you're talking about, and the nonprofits together, and be able to create this other sector that, it's crazy. And I think about other times we've talked about, you can't be, when it comes to politics, you can't be, completely left wing and think about everything on the right wing and just take everything for what you hear it as, but you have to be able to take a little bit from the left, a little bit from the right, and be able to deduce your own opinion, right? So now when it comes to business, you don't have to be so concrete or so narrow-minded, so tunnel vision that you think there can only be a nonprofit or there only can be a for-profit. Why can't we evolve and change and create something out of that takes a little bit from both, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about here.
It's funny you talk about evolving. We'll get to that in a little bit. But what's really interesting, first off is, nonprofit, LLC, all this really, I mean, they have meanings, but at the end of the day, it's just a business structure. That's really it. It's just so. But what we're seeing now, for instance, my co-founders, when they worked at their last company, they were a nonprofit, but they acted like a business. They always just thought they were a really weird nonprofit. Yeah. But the thing is, there's a lot of companies out there that are either nonprofits or they're for-profit companies that feel like they're acting like a really weird business, but they might not realize that they are actually the phenomenon of this growing, emerging fourth sector.
That's a pretty interesting point.
Which we'll get into in a little bit, but is why part of the reason Colorado Institute for Social Impact exists. We'll get into that in a little bit. But these companies come under many names. And again, we don't like to necessarily bog down the titles of these companies, but they might be a social enterprise. So a business that exists to solve a social issue, combining commercial and social goals. So a great, well-known example of that is Tom's Shoes. Tom's Shoes has their one-for-one model. So essentially with Tom's Shoes, not only are you buying an awesome product and you like the Tom's Shoes, but for every shoe you purchase, a pair goes to like a needy kid in an underserved country. Now, the caveat with that is with Tom's Shoes is they actually had a negative social impact, because what they were doing is what they gave so many freaking shoes away to these underserved countries that they're actually putting like local shoemakers out of business. Now, fortunately, Tom's Shoes,
very, very interesting point. Oh, they did recognize it though. Okay.
They did recognize it, and they've since rectified this situation. But it's the idea of just because you want to do social good doesn't mean you might have a negative impact. You might be a social business that combines commercial and social goals. Just yesterday, I went to a social impact business called Mountain Equipment Recyclers. They are an incredibly unique model. They are a nonprofit outdoor gear consignment store that is completely upcycled gear for the most part. They have original gear too, but it comes at a discount. So if you're like myself, a young 20-year-old that still wants outdoor gear but doesn't want to pay a premium for everything, you can go to Mountain Equipment Recyclers and buy cheaper items. So I bought myself a pair of pants for $5. Now, albeit I had a coupon, but the idea is that not only does Mountain Equipment Recyclers, offer this, consignment gear at a decent price, they give 100% of profits back to the community. And since 2010, this business has raised over $200,000 for nonprofits. They also might refer to themselves as a conscious capitalist, and a conscious capitalist recognizes that every business has a purpose that includes, but is more than making money. And the idea is that by focusing on its higher purpose, a business can create more value. I know you've read, I believe, Conscious Capitalism by John Mackey, who is the founder of Whole Foods. Whole Foods and New Belgium New Belgium Brewing in Colorado are two great examples of conscious capitalists that treat their employees incredibly well. They focus on sustainable environmental business practices.
I'd like to think at least that more and more companies, as we evolve, that more companies are realizing that what truly makes a good company, apart from many other things, but we're specifically talking about people right now and treating their people better. And I think a lot of companies are realizing this, right? Maybe also the Googles and the Amazons are trying to make a bigger impact on, or taking time to figure out who they're hiring and hiring somebody good and then treating them well.
Yeah, and just, and a huge part, and I'll get into conscious capitalism in a little bit, is just, they culture is a huge part. We'll get into that in a little bit, too, when we start getting into some numbers behind all of this. One more just organization I wanted to talk about really quick in this fourth sector is actually called a public benefit corporation. It's an actual legal entity registered, I believe, in either 31 or 32 states. So a benefit corporation says that it's a for-profit company entity that includes positive impact in society, workers, the community, and the environment, in addition to profit. So two well-known companies that are benefit corporations that you might know of, one is Ben & Jerry's. Another one is Patagonia. And Patagonia, whether you agree on their politics or not, they're an incredibly well-thriving business, but they have an incredibly hard stance on current politics right now. People still buy from them. So it's just fascinating. There's books, if you want to, I don't know if you want to put it in your description as well, we can talk about it after, but there's some really good books for all of these organizations too, like Conscious Capitalism by John Mackey, Mission Inc. by Kevin Lynch, Social Business by Yunus, that if you really want to dive into these topics. But, going back to conscious capitalism too, and there's so many examples of conscious capitalism in our society. Companies like Starbucks, which I know they get a negative rap, but I freaking love Starbucks. Howard Schultz, their founder, I believe he's on the chair now, has just done such a tremendous impact. If you ever talk to a Starbucks employee, like most of them I've talked to love working for Starbucks. Starbucks treats their employees incredibly well. They have a good supply chain, as far as I know. And they do incredible work in their community. I mean, I could go into them, but in a lot of these companies that are conscious capitalists, they kind of focus on almost a quadruple bottom line of purpose, their stakeholders, leadership, and culture, which is super important. Businesses like Whole Foods, Chipotle, Method, even Amazon, and again, Southwest, Starbucks, again, a lot of these companies can be classified as firms of endearment. Have you ever heard of these firms of endearment?
I don't think I have.
Firms of endearment are truly an interesting phenomenon to look at just from a numbers perspective. Firms of endearment align the interests of all their stakeholder groups, and they all have a lot of characteristics that can be modeled. These are businesses that have had an excellent impact in the world, like truly like top successful businesses in the world. And again, they operate on an open door policy to reach top management. Employee compensation and benefits are high for their category. They hire people who are passionate about their customers. They view suppliers as true partners who collaborate in improving productivity. They believe corporate culture is their greatest asset and the primary source of their competitive advantage, and their marketing costs are much lower than their peers. Firms of endearment are really interesting because you can actually compare firms of endearment versus other companies and their financial cumulative performance over years. So let's just compare firms of endearment versus the S&P 500 and good to great companies over time.
Got a fly in here.
So I know, I was looking at that.
The summer, it's finally getting warm around here, so we're getting some bugs.
If you look at the cumulative performance and the ROI of international or firms of endearment, good to great companies in S&P 500 in the first 3 years, firms of endearment will give a 47% return on investment. Pretty good, right? S&P 500, 57%, just amazing. And then good to great companies give a whopping 222%. So that's pretty good. But if you look down the year, look down the years as we go and we look at the progression of the cumulative performance of firms of endearment. I want to focus specifically on U.S. firms of endearment. If you look down 3 years, I gave you those numbers, and U.S. firms of endearment, I'm sorry, are actually 83%, not 47%. You look 5 years and 10 years, jump to 15 years down the road. And where are we at? Well, S&P 500 is still giving 118% return on investment. Good to great companies are giving a 263% return on investment, which is still fabulous and amazing.
Yeah, of course.
Here's the firms of endearment are giving a 1,681% return on investment. Remember the characteristics I just described? It's absolutely tremendous. It's fantastic. So we actually look.
They're obviously onto something. I mean, that's substantial.
And again, these are companies like Whole Foods, Starbucks, Southwest, Amazon that practice these things, that focus on culture, that align the interests of their stakeholder groups, that focus on that triple bottom line of people, profit, planet. And there's also businesses here in Colorado Springs as well. And this is part of the reason CI for SI exists. I could give numerous examples of businesses here in Colorado Springs. I mentioned Mountain Equipment Recyclers. We also have the Men's Exchange, which I know I mentioned to you, Chris, James Proby.
Yeah, I think there's probably a multitude of people that that would be perfect for this channel, for this show, but I think James, what he's doing, I really liked what he's doing. I'm like struggling right now because I don't want to talk about it really too much. I kind of want to save that for getting him on the show, so hopefully we can get him on here at some point, but what he's doing, of course, is really interesting and so cool how he's helping give back.
Well, we have catering companies that help bring people out of shitty situations and homeless situations. We have Men's Exchange, which helps equip young men to be in the professional workforce. We have, we have a real estate company that gives 100% of profits back to nonprofits. And there's countless examples right here in Colorado Springs of these businesses that are comprising the fourth sector. But what we found, and what my co-founders found, is that there was a need, Chris, to not only organize this fourth sector, but bring awareness to this fourth sector, and bring education and training to this fourth sector. So that's why Colorado Institute for Social Impact exists. Originally it was Colorado Coalition for Social Impact, but there was such a demand and a need that we moved it to an actual business 501c3 model. So CI for SI is actually a social enterprise of Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado. We believe that the social impact economy powers a new business definition for success. And what we want to do is harness social impact to accelerate the evolution of business. So our goals, we want to measure that sector's impact, like truly get down to the numbers and see really what it is. Yeah. We want to accelerate awareness, promote and build businesses, kind of what I mentioned earlier, provide social entrepreneurs with resources, training, and education. we want to become the catalyst for this sector and create a community and culture around the sector, starting right here in Colorado Springs.
So how could somebody get involved in this if they wanted to? Because you're talking about creating something that, the culture knows more about it, the city knows more about it, people know more about it in general. So what if somebody's listening to this right now, watching this, and say, this is something, or pretty much anything that you've talked about, kind of all is wrapped up into each other, but this specifically, how does one get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into that a little bit too. Absolutely, one, if you want to join our community and get involved with our newsletter and hear what's happening, you can go to our website at ci4si.org. That's for like the fourth sector. Haha, get it? ci4si.org. You can volunteer with us. We always have opportunities to do that. Or you can get involved with one of our many classes or events that we do in the community. So what do we do? Well, first off, we do education and training, and we provide free education and training for the fourth sector. So, classes like how do you choose your legal identity? How do you align your social enterprise with funders? How do you lead a social impact business? How do you tell your social impact story? How do you measure that social impact? And how do you do triple bottom line bookkeeping? So we just finished our first semester of classes from January to May, and which is awesome. We had, oh my goodness, we had probably, I don't want to quote exact numbers, but at least 100 or a couple hundred people total come through all of our classes. So it's just a really great first start. And we just have a bunch of awesome instructors, professional and qualified, teaching, in this new sector. We also do consulting for businesses. So if you really want to take it to the next level, we can, do a social entrepreneur assessment, organizational culture assessment, do a social impact business plan, as well as a social return on investment study, which we'll get into in a minute. We also do plenty of awareness, as we mentioned earlier, for the sector. We do our events and networking. So we have our networking with a purpose. So it's a great time to bring social entrepreneurs together to kind of network and hang out over a beer. We do our orientation class, our introduction to social impact class. Essentially what I'm doing right now is just making people aware that there is a new option for social impact and for business. We recognize exemplary social entrepreneurs and businesses in the region at our PRISM Awards. So that happened last March, where we had an awards ceremony dedicated to, and we went through a process where there were criteria that the community nominated, again, exemplary social entrepreneurs and impact businesses, where we awarded and recognized these individuals, as well as a few other things. So we had this incredible, or at least we're trying to do this, bring this awareness into the community in Colorado Springs, and then eventually, the rest of Colorado, and we want to take this national as well.
Yeah, of course.
Just really and we're already moving around Colorado. My co-founders were in Grand Junction a couple of times recently, and they're always moving around. But I think what really, brings all of this together, Chris, is just measuring that social return on investment, SROI, and what you might ask, one might ask, what is that SROI? And it's really just measuring not only the ROI, but the extra financial value, societal and environmental value, not currently reflected in conventional financial accounts. They always say with ROI is that, an investor wants to invest in a money machine, but maybe kind of going back to that idea of, do you want to buy from coffee shop A or coffee shop B? Do you want to invest in business A or business B? So not only are you investing in a nonprofit or donating to them or creating a grant for them because it feels good, with social return on investment, you're actually looking at true value, true numbers. We did a social return on investment study on an organization called Bridge to Justice, in partnership with the Beanstalk Foundation, another fabulous organization. Bridge to Justice exists they're lawyers. They have a law service for individuals who don't necessarily qualify for government assistance, but can't afford law services. Okay. So there's a gap. So they are the bridge. So individuals, for instance, if it's a single mother that is going through a domestic violence situation, she absolutely requires legal services, and again, she fits in that gap, she can go to Bridge to Justice. And what's interesting is, so she has to pay Bridge to Justice, but it's affordable. She can do it. But what's happening, what's interesting, is she's not, number one, not able to afford it and just dealing with a really shitty situation.
Yeah.
She is not spending exuberant amounts on law services. And if you think about, not only is she giving back to society that way, if you think about the actual social return on investment of that single mother, and this is just one example, that extra money she has is potentially extra money to feed her kids instead of relying on government assistance. It's extra money for gas money to take your kids to get educated at school instead of not having gas money. And now those kids are not getting educated and potentially getting into trouble. We all know how important education is. And the circles can be expanded over and over and over to see what that investment is. So what we found in the findings, the total SROI of bridge to justice was almost $4 million. And the bottom line was that for every $1 spent in the bridge to justice, $3.20 was returned. So our goal, and which is incredibly exciting, is to do SROI studies on all these social enterprises to truly see
how much it actually returns.
And give it legitimacy too. You know, it's not just fluff saying, oh, we have a business and we do green things. We're fine. We've got a social enterprise. Come buy from us. We're great. Which brings me into another point of how CI for SI really ties back into BBB. Is what if a business is just saying, we're a social enterprise. We're doing the good things. You ever heard of like greenwashing? A company just says, oh yeah, we do, green things, but they're still terrible for the environment, or they still treat their employees. With CI for SI, our phase one, is all the aforementioned services. But what we want to do is fill a missing gap, believe it or not, in Better Business Bureau, where BBB accredits businesses and they also accredit charities. But there's a missing middle of accrediting social impact businesses. What we're in the process right now with National BBB is creating that missing middle of social impact certifying businesses. We want to create that database and continue to establish marketplace trust with fourth sector as this movement picks up, because people are going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Or people are, where's the accountability in the fourth sector? We want to be there with Better Business Bureau and also raise awareness and bring education with CI for SI. So with this social impact certification that we want to create, National BBB, Council of BBBs is creating, not only would social impact businesses adhere to the 8 standards of trust, as we talked about, but they also adhere to 4 additional standards where they're demonstrating social impact, they have a socially conscious culture, they have a defined and published higher purpose statement, and they have impact transparency. So we believe this is the next kind of phase for CI for SI, and we're incredibly excited for this. If you want to get involved again, follow us on social media.
Yeah,
we like to stay really active there on Facebook.com, Instagram, Twitter. Just search /CI for SI.
Yeah, just throw me a list of everything, and I'll include in the summary. And another thing I'm going to do, of course, that I'm going to be implementing on all older videos and upcoming videos is a timestamp table of contents. So I'm going to be like, this is when we talk about CI for SI and for whatever. So anyways, you give me all the information you want. We'll post it in there. A lot of the books we talked about, I'll include it as well. So everything will be taken care of and really structured so people can easily navigate to everything you've spoke towards.
Yeah, and just, again, get involved on our website. If you're in, Pikes Peak region, Colorado, come hang out with us. We'd love to. We have all sorts of events going on. Our next semester is starting up again in August, and we'd love to have you come down. So
that's so cool, Micki.
We're excited for the fourth sector.
It's incredible. I mean, there's so many words I could use to describe it, but incredible, hopeful is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopeful, everything. All these positive words that I could describe it so well. You guys are doing so much. I'm, like I said, excited for you as my brother, as a friend, as to see somebody, somebody that you really care for succeed. See a friend succeed, and then see my brother succeed, and to succeed in such a manner to where you're helping and where you're giving back. And it's just, again, a perfect example. I don't think I haven't had a bad example on here. Anybody that's willing to figure it out for themselves and then help give back is a perfect guest for this show. And
thanks, man. I can't take credit for it. We just have an awesome team, and really, it's the community we have here that's just really the actual social entrepreneurs.
But that's what it's about, man. It's about a community, and it's about building that community and helping each other and networking and continue to evolve. And you're doing a good thing. You're doing a great thing.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So no, I'm incredibly excited, to continue to get to work with, so many of these social entrepreneurs and meet them and see what they're doing in the community right here in Colorado Springs. And, it's a national phenomenon too. And, it's happening throughout the world, as well. There's, I can even give examples, in like Africa where there's, people disrupting, Africa from entrepreneurship within, Africa. So it's just really exciting. I'm just can't wait to see where all this goes.
And there's a lot of good things going on too. I mean, one of the examples I was thinking, you were talking about the coffee shop, but I know like an actual example right now going on, and I'm not trying to have this go any too much longer, but
no, you're good.
No, there's the ocean cleanup project, of course, which is taking care of all the plastics that are in the ocean right now, right? And headed by Boy Onslaught, and they're coming up with this stuff that's cleaning up the plastic out of the ocean, right? It's super interesting if you or anybody else hasn't looked into it yet, but they're taking these plastics out of the ocean and they're creating sunglasses and everything out of the plastic, and they're reselling them for a little bit more, like you were talking about. But I know if that plastic was taken out of the ocean, I'm gonna pay a little bit more, to pay for that, because it's one, a lot of people it's cool to say, I got these glasses out of the ocean, that we're helping save the ocean, because we literally helping save the ocean. But like that, there's things like that, and there's so many examples of that. And the fact that you're directly tied into this and promoting it, and then again accrediting these companies with the triple B, like you're attacking it from so many aspects. So it's really cool, and I hope that people in that area maybe reach out to you and show up, and then people other places in the country do that as well.
No, and this is awesome, just to give a little bit of national awareness for what we're doing too, and just for people that don't know that there is this decision, that hey, it's coming, man, it's already happening. You look at just some of these, the aforementioned Fortune 500 companies that are just doing this right now. It's like it's happening. The movement's going, man. We're really excited.
Well, Micki, thank you so much for spending the time. I know we covered so many topics, and as we discussed, I'll throw everything that we talked about down in the bottom. But man, so good.
Some links, some kind of call to actions and stuff too.
Yeah, of course. So. Shoot me anything you want. We'll throw it down there, and it'll help other people out, because I know you've definitely helped everybody out with all the information. You are a wealth of information, so thanks so much. And again, I think that there's so much we probably didn't even cover. So like I've said to pretty much everybody that I've had on the show, I'd like to have come on the show again and touch bases again and see how they're evolving as well. And I'd love, again, for you to come on, and there's so much more to talk about, and see how you evolve as time progresses. It'd be very interesting to be able to touch back. So thanks so much, Mick, and we'll talk to you again, all right?
My pleasure.
All right, see you, man.